Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Soviet leader Yuri Andropov went public today with a set of disarmament proposals, an almost even mix of seeming concession and naked threat. Addressing a Kremlin meeting marking his nation's 60th anniversary, Andropov said his terms are clear and fair. He said, quote, "The ball is now in the U.S. court." But the U.S. says Andropov's serve never got over the net. Don McNeil in Moscow has the first of our two reports.
The Andropov nuclear weapons proposals were divided into three areas. First, on Europe, he revealed a new offer which he called a really honest zero option between the United States and the Soviet Union. If there is no deployment of new American medium-range Pershing II and cruise missiles in Western Europe, he said, he is prepared to cut the number of Soviet medium-range rockets to a figure that matches the missile forces of the British and the French. Soviet military analysts put that figure at 162. So the Soviets are possibly proposing to cut their force of 333 SS-20 missiles by half. The problem with that, according to Western military sources here, is that the Soviets don't say what will happen to the excess SS-20s. Andropov does not say they will be destroyed. They could be deployed against China or Japan. But because the SS-20 is mobile, that means they could be moved back into target range against Western Europe at a later time. Second, on strategic weapons, Andropov proposed a 25% cutback of launchers by the Soviet Union and a comparable reduction by the United States. The Soviets have about 2,500 launchers and the United States about 1,940. Andropov also proposed for the first time a reduction of the number of nuclear warheads, something that President Reagan has called for. Western military analysts were pleased that Andropov talked about reducing warheads, but were concerned that he was vague and gave no numbers. Third, Andropov said, if the United States goes ahead with its MX missile plans, the Soviets will develop and deploy their own version of the MX, repeating a Soviet threat made a month ago. Then he unveiled a new threat. The Soviet Union, he said, is currently testing a new long-range cruise missile that could be used against the United States. France and Britain quickly rejected the proposals, saying they were not impressed. However, Western European diplomats here say Andropov may have succeeded in stealing the appeal of President Reagan's zero option for Europe, that Andropov's proposals could have a powerful effect on public opinion in their countries. Don McNeil, CBS News, Moscow.
The U.S. response was cool, almost icy, and in line with that, it did not come from a top administration official, but was read by the State Department spokesman.
The Soviet proposal contained in Mr. Andropov's speech today is unacceptable because it would leave the Soviets with several hundred warheads on SS-20s while denying us the means to deter that threat. In sum, we hope the Soviets will now come to realize that we cannot give up the means to counter the nuclear threat they pose to NATO unless the threat is eliminated altogether.
After that statement was read before the cameras, State Department and Pentagon officials took an even harder line in a background briefing. They dismissed the Andropov proposal as nothing more than a repackaging of old ideas that would give the Soviets a decided nuclear advantage over Europe, and they said it seemed designed primarily to undermine Allied support for President Reagan's so-called zero-zero arms reduction proposal. Under the President's proposal, the United States would halt plans to deploy a new generation of land-based missiles and cruise missiles in Europe if the Soviets would agree to dismantle all of the missiles that they have pointed at the European continent. Officials here today described the Andropov proposal as a Russian version of zero option, a version that would allow the Soviets to point hundreds of missiles at Europe, but which would not allow the United States to put any missiles in Europe pointed at the Soviet Union. Bob Schieffer, CBS News, the State Department.
President Reagan's wooing of Jordan's King Hussein at the White House today made some, but not much, headway. There were smiles all around, but no commitment from Hussein to join the Middle East talks on Palestinian self-rule that President Reagan has proposed. One U.S. official said Hussein argued he would not join such talks until Israel stops building settlements in the West Bank. The two leaders said they'll meet again Thursday.
Home fires can get a good start before smoke reaches the smoke detector upstairs. That's why you need the earliest warning possible. Fire prevention experts agree one smoke detector is not enough. We recommend the First Alert plan. Put one smoke detector on every level. A first alert with escape light on your escape routes. Extra seconds could save your life. Follow the First Alert plan.
This is the taste that has won over 200 medals for excellence in wine tasting competitions all over the world. This is Inglenook. This is the taste that is served by more travel holiday award-winning restaurants than any of the other top 5 California wines. This is Inglenook. This is the taste that brought a record price for a California wine in auction, over $1,000 a bottle. Discover award-winning taste. Discover Inglenook.
President Reagan today signed the stopgap spending bill to keep the U.S. government going. Tonight, House and Senate conferees pumped new life into the gas tax increase to fund road repairs and jobs. And as Phil Jones reports, participants in the lame duck Congress now hope to adjourn soon without having to eat much more crow.
Even the Capitol Hill chefs seemed to be sending out a signal last night that they were also fed up by serving roast duck in the senator's dining room. But this lame duck Congress still went into another day refusing to die. While Senate and House conferees attempted to hammer out a compromise on the only remaining issue, the president's nickel gas tax, on the House floor, members spent their time blaming the Senate for the spectacle of the past few days.
This country really deserves better than what we've seen the past week or two.
Democrats blamed the president for blocking jobs legislation at the holiday season.
And I would suggest that the president stop by the butcher shop and get himself a heart for these holidays.
And on the Senate floor, Majority Leader Baker also waited today, clearly disgusted over the delaying tactics of 2 Republican senators, East and Helms of North Carolina, who have led a week-long filibuster against the gas tax. And tonight, there was a breakthrough as that House-Senate Conference Committee reached an agreement, the major compromise being that taxes on heavy trucks will not be as much as some members had wanted. They hope that this will be a compromise that can now get through the full House and Senate. Dan?
Phil, the president said this afternoon this lame duck session of Congress has been a good one for him. Is it viewed that way at the Capitol?
Dan, I think almost everybody who got close to this lame duck session is going to be leaving with a limp. I think for the president, it marks the beginning of major problems for him. He had trouble controlling a handful of his own conservative soulmates, and come January, he's going to have 26 more Democrats to deal with. For the institution, it has not been a glorious time. The Senate has been paralyzed by its own rules and almost unable to do the nation's business.
Thank you, Phil. A skin growth removed from the upper lip of First Lady Nancy Reagan was diagnosed today as a form of skin cancer, but the most common and most curable kind of cancer. Usually, removal of the growth is the only treatment needed. Mrs. Reagan was described as startled to learn it was malignant, but glad that it's been tended to. Comic actor Jerry Lewis is reported doing very well tonight after emergency open heart surgery in Las Vegas. Lewis is 56. He's expected to leave the hospital in 7 to 10 days.
Only from Atari. Made especially for systems from Atari. The video game that lets you help E.T. get home. Just in time for Christmas. Happy holidays.
Watch the Norelco Clean Air machine help fight dirty air with clean air inside this smoke-filled container. The Clean Air machine with its new electrostatic multilayer filter works like a magnet to help trap pollutants such as tobacco smoke, pet and cooking odors, even dust and pollen. The result? Cleaner, fresher air. So help fight your dirty air with Clean Air. The Norelco Clean Air machines, fresh from Norelco. For maximum effectiveness, change your filter often and be sure it's a universal filter from Norelco.
How much show business and other secular activity can a church house before it loses its tax exemption? Jerry Bowen reports that's the issue being raised by California authorities.
The Crystal Cathedral, with its 10,000 mirrored windows, is the centerpiece of the ministry of Pastor Robert Schuller, who each week claims to have the largest TV audience for a religious program. 3 million viewers tuning in to hear the Word of God. The Word of God is one thing, say California tax officials, but when you throw in everything from Weight Watchers to Lawrence Welk, including aerobic dancing, that's quite another matter. California officials say so much of what has been going on here for the past 2 years is non-religious that Schuller's church is no longer exempt from property taxes. In fact, owes the state $400,000 for past transgressions.
The sanctuary is a place to worship, and it should not be commercialized to the extent that this has been commercialized.
In addition to Welk, there were concerts in the cathedral by Fred Waring and Victor Borge. Sunday breakfast and brunch was peddled, starting at $5 a plate. Overeaters could join a 5-week-long aerobics class held in this building. Things got so busy, the church installed its own Ticketron office.
I have no doubt in my mind we will not lose our tax exemption. I don't believe that for a minute.
The flamboyant Schuller described the extra activities as auxiliary ministries designed to serve community needs, that no profit was made, and that the questionable events, including a series of concerts for the '83 season, have been canceled.
When I heard about some of these secular concerts, I raised an eyebrow myself.
The only big event in the cathedral these days is the annual Christmas pageant, camels and all, but Schuller is not rid of the past. He must still negotiate his way out of contracts made for the canceled season with the likes of Robert Goulet, Tony Bennett, and the Fifth Dimension. Said one church official, if we can't schedule them into Knott's Berry Farm, we may have to buy them out. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Garden Grove, California.
Treasury Secretary Donald Regan told Congress today that the United States and other industrial nations should issue emergency loans to debt-ridden developing nations. Otherwise, he said, we could have a worldwide depression. House Democrats disagreed, saying Regan was really concerned about helping the commercial banks that issued the loans. Foreign trade relations of another sort are causing a controversy among the most developed nations, the charge by Americans that foreign competitors aren't fighting fair. Bruce Morton looks at the solution many Americans are proposing as the way to fight back.
You can hear the anger and unhappiness from union members at their hall in Canton, Michigan.
There's no way to compete unless we're going to work for 49 cents an hour. And that's where our government has to say, we will take care of our own, and we're going to have some rules, because the way the world is today, free trade is not fair trade.
You can hear it from Garrett DeYoung at his farm in St. Anne, Illinois.
Well, this definitely is part of our problem today of we don't have enough exports, and that we have our stockpiles and our buildup today, and so therefore that's why we have all of our surplus. And this is getting to be quite out of hand, and it's really hurting us quite severely.
Often these days you can hear it from politicians.
We believe in freer trade, but we're not suckers. And today you need the U.S. Army to sell a car, an American-produced car in Japan.
The United States, imports flooding in, exporters frustrated, is in the grip of full-scale Toyota-bashing protectionist fever. The question is what to do about it. The United Auto Workers, among others, wants a domestic content bill. A certain percentage of the parts in Toyotas and other foreign cars would have to be manufactured here. The administration is against that.
Domestic content legislation, for example, will hurt us more than it hurts anybody else. Because it raises the price of every car sold in this country. Cars are already so high priced that a lot of Americans can't afford to buy them. That means less cars will be sold, less cars will be made, less Americans will be employed making those cars.
Another common demand is for reciprocity. Treat France or Japan the way France or Japan treats us. Would that work?
Not if it's done country by country, because that means you've got 150 different trade policies.
But U.S. officials say they are through being Mr. Nice Guy. Common market countries have dumped agricultural goods on world markets. Agriculture Secretary John Block says if no agreement is reached, the U.S. will consider dumping back.
When we see our markets being stolen away by the treasuries from other countries, and we're placed in a position where we don't have anything, there's nothing that we can do except compete with them to try and hold our own, because we have farmers in this country that, they have every right to the market.
We have done about as much talking as we feel that we can comfortably do. It's time for us to do something else.
One thing that would help lower U.S. interest rates. High rates have driven up the value of the U.S. dollar against other currencies, so U.S. goods cost more abroad. A $10,000 U.S. machine cost 18,000 marks in 1980, 26,000 marks today. The machine hasn't gone up, the dollar has.
MIT economist Lester Thoreau.
The current value of the dollar has clearly made it virtually impossible for American manufacturers to export.
Solutions are not easy.
It all sounds gloomy in the United States, and if you go to Europe, it even sounds more gloomy and looks more gloomy. There's just no question that the world trading system is in a crisis, and at the moment, it's not at all obvious how we're going to get out of it.
Worldwide recovery would help a lot, of course, but nobody has a firm date for that. Meanwhile, the Reagan administration promises tough deeds, not words, to deal with unfair traders. The risk in toughness is that it could trigger a trade war.
We're talking about our political and military allies that we're going to declare economic war on. And it's very hard to conduct an economic war and still have friends at the same time.
Still, the view in Michigan is they'd better do something. Otherwise...
And a hell of a lot of people are going to suffer. And it's going to be the small people that are down, and factory workers, the grocery store workers. They're going to go through a little nightmare.
Feelings run very strongly among workers, among farmers across the country. Protectionism is an issue the new Congress and the president will have to deal with. It shows no signs of going away. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Canton, Michigan.
Something new has been added to next year's space shuttle flights: doctors who make house calls in space. 2 physicians were named to the crews of the Challenger Shuttle 7 and Shuttle 8 missions. Part of the reason, to collect data on motion sickness affecting some of the astronauts.
Don't pass that moment up. Catch it before it's gone with Polaroid pictures. Just take it and pass it on.
Polaroid instant pictures can add big fun to anyone's big day. But you can't pass the fun around if you don't have the film around.
With Polaroid pictures, just take it and pass it on. Don't pass that moment up, pass it on.
This is gonna be a fabulous party.
Here's the Canada Dry.
Everything's gotta be just right for our best friends.
Oh, can't wait.
It's gonna be great. So let it all begin. Cause when I'm mixing with my best friends, I'm mixing with the best Canada Dry.
Are you ready for Canada Dry?
There is the spirit of Santa and the specter of Scrooge in government reports today. The Labor Department says that with a small rise in consumer prices last month, inflation for the first 11 months of the year is running at an annual rate of only 4.5%. But the Commerce Department says its flash estimate shows the economy taking a downturn in the year's final quarter. Ray Brady looks at that mixed bag of reports.
Would you take a check? All right, let me take that.
They're playing jingle bells at the stores, but they're not getting all that much jingle at the cash register. Some merchants say holiday shopping seems to be picking up a bit, but many customers say they're still going easy.
We'll know on December 25th how it was.
I'm being much more cautious, much more careful. Right. Yeah, much more practical.
That slowdown at the stores and other factors are slowing up the economy, the gross national product. Commerce Department economists estimate it's falling at a 2.2% annual rate this quarter, after rising slightly earlier in the year. That figure could be revised later on. Even so, says one of President Reagan's top economic advisors, it's bad news.
The economy is continuing to sag, and what these data merely confirm is that an upturn is some months away.
If there can be a bright side to all this, it is simply that most economists say that a combination of the oil glut, big crops on the farm, and the recession have slowed the inflation rate way down. The Consumer Price Index last month rose just 0.1%, the lowest increase since March, due largely to a drop in housing costs. Mortgage interest rates alone fell 2.5%. But to heat that house, natural gas cost 1.8% more and fuel oil 2% more. Food for the house costs 0.1% more. All that may give Americans one bit of holiday cheer. 1982 could end as the year with the lowest inflation rate since the early 1970s. Ray Brady, CBS News, New York.
The mortgage interest rate component in today's Consumer Price Index dropped a dramatic 26%. That reflects falling FHA and conventional mortgage rates. Jane Bryant Quinn tonight looks at the effect on one city where high interest rates had hit housing like a tornado.
For 4 straight years, the housing industry in America has been flat on its back. The market in Chicago was the first to crash. And how do Chicago builders feel today?
I'm starting to feel great. I think it's coming back. It's picked up somewhere between 20 and 30%.
Everywhere, middle-income families who have been shut out of the housing market are coming back. They're doing it on 12% mortgage money, loans guaranteed by the Federal Housing Administration. FHA rates have dropped 3 points in the past 4 months.
Everyone decided, and I think correctly, that mortgage rates weren't going any lower, so if they were going to get into the housing market, now was the time, and they all jumped in at one time.
We've had a tremendous number of FHA applications. They've been growing since August, and in November they reached record proportions.
There are limits to what you can borrow on FHA loans. In many markets, no more than $67,500. So these mortgages are mostly used to finance lower-cost homes.
That's how you get the first-time home buyer. Most first-time home buyers don't buy palaces. So we come in at a lower rate.
The basic house is also more affordable. House prices have been rising more slowly than the inflation rate. So in terms of real purchasing power, houses are a little cheaper now than they were 3 years ago.
I don't think housing prices are going to increase very much in the next couple of years because competition is going to be very keen.
In this Chicago suburb of Westmont, what's selling are smaller houses, sometimes without basements, often without all the fancy trim that buyers expected 5 years ago. In this subdivision, prices start at $85,000, but in a subdivision opening in January, prices will start at $65,000. For middle-income home buyers, this sudden change in the housing market is the break they've been waiting for.
It was a relief. It really was.
The gamble for people still looking at homes is whether to buy now or to wait and see if interest rates fall even further. Jane Bryant Quinn, CBS News, Westmont, Illinois.
Adding another nip to the eggnog, the Commerce Department today reported that factory orders for durable goods jumped 1.9% in November. That eats up some of the 5% loss suffered in October for such expensive items as automobiles, furniture, and airplanes. And it was enough to help trigger a Wall Street rally that showed the Dow Jones making its best gain in 3 weeks. A small oil tank exploded in flames today in Blytherville, Texas, killing 2 oil field workers and injuring 4 others. Another worker is missing and presumed dead. Authorities said the fire was touched off by a welding gun. Heat was so intense that searchers had to wait for the fire to burn out before they could look for bodies. One witness said it looked like all of Austin County was on fire.
What kind of people drink Sanka brand? People like Virginia Buckland, horse trainer.
Horses can sense if you're nervous. That's why I have to stay in control. So I really look forward to relaxing with a cup of Sanka brand decaffeinated coffee. A cup of Sanka, please.
As usual.
That's good. And it's 97% caffeine-free, so it's perfect for me anytime, anywhere.
Sanka brand, for people who love coffee but not caffeine.
Monday night, Publishers Clearinghouse announced our latest winner. James Adams of Iowa won $67,000. And you could win even more. Maybe $250,000 in cash because our new $1 million triple sweepstakes is in the mail now. It's our biggest sweepstakes ever, $1 million in prizes. So watch your mail for this one and enter. One of the winners we announced on TV March 15th could be you. Publishers Clearinghouse, we want to make you a winner.
Some special Christmas gifts from Radio Shack.
I knew my son would like a radio-controlled toy for Christmas, and Radio Shack has a great assortment to choose from. With an easy-to-operate transmitter, he can control all the action, whether it's at the races, on maneuvers, on the road, or off.
Dad, is it my turn yet?
11 different radio-controlled action toys, $11.95 to $69.95. Only at Radio Shack, your Christmas electronics store.
'Twas 4 days before Christmas, and all through the streets, vendors were offering holiday treats. But Charles Osgood will tell you in a story right quick, the reaction from merchants is not that of St. Nick.
And he looked like a peddler, just opening his pack.
When Clement Moore wrote his famous poem about St. Nicholas, the peddler was a familiar image to draw on. In those days, there were lots of peddlers on the streets, hawking their wares from push carts and horse-drawn wagons. And from these humble beginnings, peddlers named Fox and Filene and Lord and Strauss and Gimble built their businesses. Until now, in 1982, there are great department stores that bear their names. Meanwhile, out here on the street, look what is happening all over again.
Anything below the walls for $6 a piece, sir. 1/3 the store's price, $3.
Once again, the streets of New York and many of our other major cities are a marketplace. Goods being sold out of bags and boxes and spread out on tabletops and sometimes right out on the street itself. In this Christmas shopping season, retailers have to do well. It's make or break, when stores make up to 60% of their profits for the year. Same way with the sidewalk capitalists. This is their busy season, too. The New York City police have been trying to crack down on the peddlers, sometimes impounding their inventory, other times just making them move on. Sometimes the peddlers use a dense pack system. With so many peddlers per square foot, the police don't know where to start. With a lot of people looking for bargains these days, business appears to be brisk. Lord knows the overhead is low. But sales tax is seldom if ever collected, and nobody really knows how much all this is costing the government or the stores. Those stores who do have overhead costs and do collect taxes.
You can't have a quality center with rentals running as high as $70 a square foot for office space and maybe $300,000 or $400,000 for ground floor space on an annual basis and have peddlers outside your door. It just won't work.
The big businesses, they don't want any competitions, and many of them had their beginning, just as we're trying to make our beginning. Peddling is the entrance to retail independence. We want to be our own boss.
Who knows, maybe someday in the 21st century, there will be a great department store called Brother James. If there is, you have to wonder if the executives there will call the cops to get those scruffy peddlers off the street. Charles Osgood, CBS News, New York.
And that's the CBS Evening News for this Tuesday. Dan Rather reporting from New York. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
Recently, an important event took place at the House of Commons in London, England. It was not a coronation or a royal wedding, but a ceremony to honor a few extraordinary wines, judged to be among the best in the world.
French Colombard, gold.
As wine experts from all over Europe looked on, more awards went to the wines of one vintner
Cabernet Sauvignon,
than to any other.
Silva,
The wines were not from Italy,
Gewürztraminer,
not from Germany,
Sauvignon Blanc,
not from France,
Chardonnay,
but instead from California.
Johannesburg Riesling.
The California winery whose wines were honored more than any other in the world, the award-winning winery of Ernest and Julio Gallo. From America's premier vintner, all the best.
Primetime television, a special look at the people and issues behind the scenes. Who are the decision makers and how do they think? CBS reports, don't touch that dial, Thursday.
This is CBS.
Tennessee's troubled prison system gets a new leader, and Metro has come up with a temporary solution to its medical examiner problems. We'll have details on these stories and more coming up next on Eyewitness News.
Ron McPherson has been fitting men with quality clothing here on Charlotte Avenue for 12 years. Following that same tradition, Ron continues to offer quality names like Botany, Johnny Carson, and Kingston. For the personal fitting and professional alterations, Ron McPherson and Jimmy Hicks' personal touch assures you you'll always look your best. And as always, Ron offers you your personal charge account.